There we go. It's live. Yeah, I see it on my end.
Just making sure.
Guess I'll say hey to everyone who's jumping on
Hey,
early.
Yep, so we don't have anyone on at the moment. So let me just reload this. Bum, 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 bum. We should be on everywhere. So
Awesome.
we
Awesome.
are
Awesome.
good. Right, guys. So today, after a long while and a wait, I've eventually got Branden Yamada on. So just a little bit about Branden. Is today's topic is going to be about selling your e-commerce business, your e-commerce store or business. So we have Branden, who has brokered for over 3 years online stores and is now switched over to buying 7 and 8 figure businesses. And he's going to share with us some great insider information on what makes your store valuable and how to get an idea of how much it's worth and what you should be doing to consider selling it. And also what you should be doing in the back end to ensure your business is ready for an exit. So the way I think on it, everyone should have an exit plan.
Absolutely.
That's the way.
Absolutely.
Agreed?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Good. Well, glad to be here. Thanks for having me. I own Ecom Exchange, Branden Yamada. We got our start brokering e-commerce businesses exclusively, a lot of Shopify stores, and I switched over to the buyer side. And I just wanted to kind of give back and share with you guys what we're seeing on the buyer side, and to show you the reasons why you might want to sell a store, how you can get an idea how much your store is worth, and where you could sell and whatnot. So you can pick my brain, because this is what I eat, sleep, and breathe, and it's what I've done for the past 3.5 years. So thanks for having me.
Yeah. And can I just say, Branden is also, he's actually brokered sales for some of our sellers as well. So I know how he works and is trusted. And the guys he's sold for well, are very happy. I'm sure they're on a beach somewhere.
Yeah, I think he is actually. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
I think he literally is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dive into the questions. But first of all, what I would ask you to do is go to the link in the post below, and for StreamYard, just sign up so that your question can come up on the screen and we know who it is we are speaking to. That way we can answer your question correctly and we know who we're answering to. So, other than that, let's get started. So, why would I sell my store if it is doing well?
Yeah, this is the big question. So, when you're a successful store owner, you've put in the 3, 4, 5 years to finally get a store working, and you're making lots of profit. It's like the one of the last things on your mind usually is, why would I even sell my store if it's doing really good? When you're making 10,000, 20,000 in profit each month, you got a good thing going. So you don't really want to sell it usually at the time. Everything's just going so well. And that's the problem. 95% of the owners that I talk to, both brokering and even here on the buyer side, people come to me when things are going wrong. Their ad account is banned, PayPal just banned them, or something went catastrophically wrong to cause, profits to fall and sales to fall off. And so this is a huge problem. So you have to think preemptively as a successful business owner. You have to have an exit plan in mind, because that one sale can mean 2 to 3 years of your profits in one sale. So like, I know a lot of you guys are, optimizing to make a couple extra hundred or a couple extra thousand in profit each month. And that's a big deal. But think about it. What would you do with 2 to 3 years of your profits in one sale? Like, what would you do if you made a 6 or 7 figure exit? This is the kind of stuff that you need to think about and really prepare for. You know, a lot of people have been spending, you know, 3, 4, 5 years on their brands. You know, I don't know if you want to work on, you know, your baby niche store or your electronics niche store for the next 5 years or so, but making an exit, you know, you can work on something else that you probably are curious about. It graduates you to a higher level, because if you look at the successful entrepreneurs at the higher levels, most of them have made an exit before. They've sold a business before. So, you know, these truly successful people aren't making 10, 20,000 in profit each month. They're making hundreds of thousands. Like, I know a lot of rich people, they're making, you know, hundreds of thousands, millions each month. And so to get to that level, you know, exiting is a very common thing for success. And it's something that you should always have in mind when you're looking at, you know, your store and your brand.
The other thing as well is when people sell their store and get obviously that large amount of money, a lot of them actually come back into the business because they've learned so much and they build a better brand.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, you have people, if you're good at e-commerce, right, you're good at marketing, you know how to, you've kind of figured out e-commerce. So you make one brand work, you can usually make another brand work. And I see this with a lot of successful owners who exit. So, you know, some people like to start from scratch again, make a whole new unique thing and start the whole process over again. You know, they love it. Some people, they buy something that's existing. So you could buy an existing brand that you think you could take to the next level. And that gives you a little more leverage. And you could acquire multiple build out teams that can automate the process for you. And so you kind of graduate, like I said, to this higher level. So yeah, absolutely.
So automation is a lot to do with it as well, isn't it?
Yeah, automation is definitely a big thing. I think your next question that we'll probably get into, I'll talk a little bit more about automation.
So what factors are most important in a store's value?
Yeah, so there's a lot of factors. Don't get me wrong. There is a lot of factors that make a valuable store. I'm going to give you guys my big 5 that I've seen as an IBBA broker and as a buyer now.
I've seen it and it's good.
Yeah. So the number one, and I want you to remember this, net profit is king. Your sales are important. Profit is always king. It's always about how much your business is actually making at the end of the day, month over month, year over year. What's the history of that net profit? Is it growing? Net profit is king. Always keep it in front, because that's the most important metric to you as an owner as well. So net profit, number 1. Number 2, your trend or the history of your store. You know, are you growing year over year? Do you have a unique brand that's growing? Are sales kind of staying the same, or are you on a decline? 95% of the people that I talk to when I'm brokering or you know buying, they're coming to me when their sales are going down, and that's just kind of like a not very desirable store. It's like when you go to buy a car, you expect to buy a working car with no issues, right? Very few people want to buy a broken down salvage car. Some people fix them up and sell them. That's fine. But the majority of people want a working car. Same thing with your business, guys. Don't think about when your car or business breaks down to go and sell it. So absolutely, your trend, your history. Number 3, your financials. So a lot of people don't have a profit loss statement. A lot of people don't have bookkeeping, accounting, and I understand, you know, a lot of people who are only making 2, 3, 4,000 in profit a month, they can't really hire a bookkeeper. That's cool. You can still attach. You got tons of add-ons in the Shopify store. You can have QuickBooks. You can have Xero. There's tons of stuff that you could use online for bookkeeping, but absolutely do not skip it. There is no hope of you selling your store or brand for a respectable amount if you don't have your financials. And let's be honest, you're not going to find out how much your store is worth if you don't know how much money you're making in the first place. Yeah. So your profit loss statement is something that you absolutely need. Your taxes, make sure you're doing your taxes, because most of the owners are going to want to see that. And then make sure, you know, it's all well documented and you have it in a place, keep it accounted for. You don't want to think about it at the last second. So number 4, Uniqueness. You need something unique. I know there's a ton of drop shippers. There's a lot of courses and gurus that kind of teach this unique process, but you can graduate from that and build into something that's more of a unique brand, something that sets you apart from the competition, so that you're not cycling through winners. You have a long-term winning brand strategy. Because people who are going to actually spend 6-7 figures to acquire your brand, the people who actually have the money, we're not gonna put our money on anything that's risky. It has to be a sure bet. Like, this is my hard-earned money, and if you want it, it has to be worth it. And that's all there is to it. So make it unique, make it something that makes you stand out. Number 5 is automation. So making sure that your business is running without you. And you hear this a lot with successful entrepreneurs. And this actually has a lot to do with what you do, Kevin, because you handle parts of automation in the business. But if you want to get your business to the point where you could drop it in an average Joe's lap and it'll run by itself. Doesn't happen very often, but you want to get to that point as much as you can. So are you running the ads by yourself? Are you doing customer service the marketing ads is a huge thing. If you're not at a level where you can outsource it yet, then get to a point where you can, because if you want to make a decent exit, you want to be making 6-7 thousand a month or more before you exit. So look at the different things you could outsource. You want to get your hours in the business that you spend on a weekly basis down to 5 hours a week, not 40 hours a week. So yeah, those are my big 5: automation, uniqueness, financials, your trend or history, and your net profit.
Just to let you know, all the information that Branden gives us, we'll have on the YouTube channel below, so that you've got all the information there that you need. Just to touch back on that, when we were talking about the marketing and the Facebook ad side of things.
Yeah.
So when someone runs their own Facebook ads and then they go to sell it to a buyer, and the buyer doesn't know Facebook ads.
Yeah.
So what options do they then have to be able to sell? Because there's obviously, as we were talking about, they can have a company run their ads for say 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
And then when it gets passed over, then that automation is gone. That company is doing it. But if someone has not got that and wants to sell on, what type of things can be put in place for them to be able to still be able to make the transaction?
Yeah, so this is a big issue because a lot of people who are doing, Shopify or WordPress or similar platforms, they're running traffic to their sites. They might have an organic presence, they might have strong SEO, but to get these big numbers, usually you're pushing some kind of traffic to it. And so here's the big issue: if you're running all the marketing and you're making 10,000, 20,000 in profit a month, right? You're assuming when you go to sell it, if you're doing that by yourself, you're assuming that the potential buyer is just as smart as you or smarter at running those ads and marketing your store. And even if they are that smart, they don't understand your brand as well as you do. So you really limit the type of potential buyers that you have. Now it's not just people with money. It's like I'm targeting marketers with money. I'm targeting people who already own stores in my niche, and that have money. So, to open yourself up to more possibilities and to get a better offer, you need to automate that stuff. And if you're not at a point to where you can get to a point where you are, like if you're not at, 7,000, 10,000 profit a month, get to that point first before you start thinking about exiting. Honestly, when you get to that point, you can, decent agencies will run you $3,000 to $5,000 a month. Good agencies. There's no such thing as a cheap, effective agency that I've seen, and I've seen a lot of them. So, get to the point where you can get it automated, get a good history, because a solid agency is going to take you to the next level. They're not going to keep you at 10,000, 15,000 profits.
Yeah.
I've seen stores get taken from 10,000 to 30,000 to 50,000, even higher. Get that under your belt and have a good track record. Have them run it for 6 months, 12 months to where they understand the brand, so that when you sell it, the new owner can come in, have confidence, like, oh, these guys really do understand the brand. I have confidence that they can keep running the ads and maintain performance so I can at least get my money back and, hopefully a lot more.
And that's just to touch on that. That's one of the things. People aren't buying the store to keep it at what it already is. People are out to look to buy a store to take it to the next level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially when it comes to Shopify stores. Like, you have different affiliate sites. Like, when someone buys an affiliate site, they might look at growing it a little bit more, but they want the stable profits. It's kind of a more stable thing. But like with Shopify stores, when I'm buying, I'm looking at a store and I'm like, can I take this from 10,000 to 30? Can we take it to 50? Does this have, 6-figure profit month potential? And if I don't see it, well, there's, hundreds of other stores that I can look at. There's so many stores out there, guys. You have to differentiate, what's unique and valuable about your store. So yeah, absolutely. So
tell me the next one. How do I value my store and my website?
Yeah. So that's a big one. This is like the $1 million question. How do I find out how much my store is? Here's what you don't do. And this is the one thing, if you take away anything, remember this: don't go to these sites and type in 3 pieces of information, have it spit out some magical valuation number like, oh, your 6-month-old Shopify store is worth $1.3 million. It's not.
Like Shopify Exchange.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to, throw out any names, but, a lot of these tools are meant to generate leads for these different brands. And some of them are good. I've seen some decent ones, but most of them aren't, because it assumes a lot of factors. Like, you can't have a 6-month-old store and make multiple 6 figures on your exit. Like, it just doesn't work like that. So, the top 5 things that I mentioned, the top 5 factors, rewind if you need to, are very, important in valuing your store. This is how I would do it. When most people look to value their store, they're trying to spend a couple hours or a day tops to figure out how much their store is worth. They've worked on their store for 3 years, 5 years, whatever, and they want to spend one day and like, oh, I magically know how much my store is worth. You don't. So here's what you can do. If you're at a point where you're making, 10,000 in profit or more with your store, it's at least 2 years old, 3 years old, one thing that I would recommend you do, reach out to the top brokers, right? So, you got Empire Flippers, you've got Website Closers, FE International, all of them. Reach out to a spectrum of them, talk to all of them, and say, hey, I've got this store. Make sure you have all your ducks in a row. Did you have a question? I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
No.
Yeah. So make sure you have your financials and all that stuff, because when you come to brokers, you have to have all your stuff in line. If you want to get your value, talk to all of them, get valuations from everyone. You don't have to sign exclusivity with anyone to get a valuation, and then create kind of a spectrum of what your valuation range is. So I would use that if you're doing 10K in profit or more. There's a lot of people who aren't doing that much. And this is where a lot of people get left out to the wolves. And that's why they go to these different, site value tools and stuff like that. Here's a secret formula I want you guys to try to get an idea of how much your store is worth. Because you're not going to read this. Like, you're not going to read my humongous valuation book, right? So this is what you do. Open up a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet, right? You're going to go to the top platforms. You're going to go to flippa.com. You probably heard of that. You've probably heard of Exchange by Shopify. Any kind of listing platforms where they have websites for sale that are similar to yours. I want you to go and look at the active listings and sold listings. You're going to look at both of them. Sold listings being more important. And as you go through the different sold listings, check out stores that are similar to what you are. So, if you're doing electronics, find an electronics store that's sold. Look for stores that have similar figures and similar traits to what you have, right? And when you find something, take the multiple, which the multiple is, how much they're listing the price of the business for, as a multiple of average monthly net profits usually. So you'll see like 32x or 24x or whatever. Put the multiple down, put the age of the business, how many years, and then put the valuation price. And then I would go through and get, a solid 6 to 9 points of data with this, right? To get a spectrum. And I would go across multiple platforms, and then you get this range of data. You're like, okay, electronics based, Shopify stores that are doing my figures typically sell for this range. And now you have an idea, because if you just go straight to the, valuation tools, you're not going to get the figure that you're looking for. If you go to these sites and you look, you'll see a ton of stores listed for 6 figures or more, and they're just not worth it. There's a graveyard of unsold stores on these sites because they're not valuing their stuff right. So open up a spreadsheet, like I said, get a myriad of different values, and then use that to aggregate a rough figure. So you at least know the range that it's falling in. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing we're saying is when you're on Flippa and you're on the exchange, we were saying people would want access to your Google Analytics.
Yeah.
And that's where we're saying, well, you can't give people access to your Google Analytics until we're saying they know they have their money.
Yeah.
They can do the deal.
Yeah.
And also you just don't want to give everyone access to your Google Analytics because
definitely not. Yeah.
They're just going to see your products, and then you know what happens after that.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is real, guys. I've been, in this industry like 3.5 years. Just e-commerce stores exclusively. There are people out there who just want to steal your information and, try to duplicate what you do or exploit the information that you give to them. So the benefit is, like, if you're doing, 10,000 profit or more and you're working with a broker, they're going to take care of that for you. So you don't have to worry about that. That's why you're paying them 10 to 15% to do their job, right? But for the people who are on Flippa or Exchange by Shopify, then you're kind of out to fend for yourself. And this is where a lot of sellers kind of put themselves in a vulnerable position. So what I would say is this: when you're doing your listing and you're listing your business for sale, make sure it's very descriptive without giving too much away. Don't put your site URL. Don't give anyone access to your Google Analytics or your ads account until you get something called a non-disclosure agreement. And just a heads up, this isn't financial advice or legal advice. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm just letting you know what I do. But a non-disclosure agreement, you can work with a lawyer and get one drafted up for your business. Or if you're listing on Flippa, I think they give you one for free to use. You get that so that it binds them legally to not exploit the data that you've given to them. And then, one thing I would do is, if they're looking to buy, if your stores are worth 150,000, I'm going to ask for some kind of proof of funds. Hey, how are you going to pay for this? How do you intend on paying for this if this meets your criteria? So ask for. It's okay to ask for things from the buyer to verify that they're someone that you want to work with. So I would start with that. After you get those things, then you can hop on calls, talk to the buyer. If you think you could work with them and it's a good fit, then you can look at giving them Google Analytics access, or getting them into your ads account. But generally, I can snapshot a lot of stuff. I know snapshots can be faked, but before we get too deep ahead of ourselves, if you want to see the stuff, here's the info. I'm going to show you that it's really there and that it's real info if you're serious about buying my store. So don't worry about that. Right. But yeah, what you brought up is absolutely true. There's a lot of people out there just trying to use your data.
Exactly. So that brings me to another question, and our last one is, what do successful sold stores and websites have in common?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different examples, and I'm just kind of talking about e-commerce sites, right? There's a lot of different e-commerce sites. You got FBA stores, you got Amazon affiliate sites, you got SaaS sites. There's so many different types of online businesses that you can, buy and sell. But when it comes to e-commerce stores, those top 5 things that I talked about as far as the value in a store: net profit, having strong net profit, a good trend, year over year growth. That's something that you'll hear a lot of buyers talk about. Is it growing? That's a really big deal. Having solid financials shows that you're serious about your business and you're serious about selling it. It's a really big thing that successful sellers always have. They have a unique brand. They're not just drop shipping, some stuff off of AliExpress or whatnot. And if you are, how can you make it better and differentiate yourself? How can you make it as non-duplicatable as possible from, with someone else. And then of course it's well automated, because people don't really want to buy into another job most of the time. Like if your store is making a ton of profit, but I got to spend 40 hours a week on it, that's not something I'm interested in.
No.
So, those are the big things. Ask
And
yourself.
the branding side as well comes
Yeah,
into it a lot as well, really, like branding the parcels, branding the
absolutely.
packaging, and if possible, actually brand the product.
Absolutely. And this is something that I see a lot. I'll talk to someone, they got solid financials, they got a great brand. And then I look at the products, I'm like, you don't really have, there's no really real branding going on here. And they're like, oh, we can get, branding done. That's not a problem. But like, you haven't done it. I can't bank on what you haven't done. I can
Mm-hmm.
only bank on what you've done and established over a period of time. So like, don't leave it for the next owner to do. Like, do the things that you think are going to make it valuable. And if you are thinking about selling, just be honest with yourself. Would you really spend $200,000 of your own money to buy your business? Like, just be real with yourself, because people with the money, they're going to find every nook and cranny, any kind of lie that you try to cover up or any flaw, they're going to see all of it, because these guys are, they're not going to mess around with their money.
No.
So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Definitely. So that's the questions. If anyone has got a question, if you can post it up now. I know we're at 10 a.m. in the morning, but good morning, Uger. How are you? But the live stream has been recorded, so I'll have it posted up. And if you've got any questions, just put them down below. And as I says, all the links that we have spoke about, the exchanges, and Brandon's 5 points of selling your website as well. I'll make sure I have them up for you as well, so you can get through them. So we will give it another minute or so, and if there's not any questions, we'll call it a day, because I know it's 10 a.m. A lot of people are still asleep.
Yeah,
Unlike us.
I would say for the people who are watching this on the replay, if you have any questions that you want to ask and pick my brain, just drop them in the comments. I'm going to be taking a look, and I'll do my best to answer, as good as I can, your questions that you have.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget to come to DropHippo.com. Let me just drop that in there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I used to hear a lot of that the valuation depended a lot on the revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Yeah.
didn't make sense.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't make sense. Sales are important, but you could be making 50% profit on that sale, or you could be making 10% profit. And just as a rule of thumb, guys, when it comes to net profit, you want to be bare minimum 15% on your profit margin. 20 is better, 25 is even better. The higher the better. 15 is the bare minimum. So if you're floating at 10, 5%, something like that, you got to fix that. So yeah, sales are important because it shows activity, but it's all about the profit.
I hope that
Good
helps.
question. Yeah, good question though.
Yeah. I think we are pretty much done with the questions now. I really appreciate you giving us a time. I know how busy you've been, and I've been pestering you now for about 2 months.
Yeah, no problem.
So I really do appreciate Branden for coming on, and
Yeah.
I hope everyone enjoyed it and learned a lot from it. And
Definitely.
until next time, we'll see you later.
Thanks for having me,
Thank you,
guys.
Branden.
Take it easy.
See you later. Bye bye.